The HiLux GR Sport could be the right ute for you if you're looking for something that's hardcore and 4x4 and isn't necessarily pushing the price to extreme levels. There's a fair bit to talk about here, some stuff that's really, really good and some stuff that really, really isn't. So stay tuned, I'll cover it all in this test. And also, if you haven't already, please do like and subscribe. Let's get to it. Toyota has priced the HiLux GR Sport at $73,990 plus on-road cost, which might seem like a lot for a Hilux, but actually there have been a lot of changes made here to help justify that cost over, say, an SR5. So you do get specific suspension for this model, KYB shock absorbers and a 15mm height raise, so you get better ground clearance. You also get the removal of the rear stabilizer bar for more serious off-road stuff. I'll show you some of that later on, but also there's a bunch of changes to the look of the car. So there's specific 17-inch alloy wheels with all-terrain tires. You also get the new look grille and front bumper with specific aero elements to it, and Toyota spelled out across the grille, which I really like. And also on the inside, you get some nice treatment like suede finishes on the seats and red seat belts, which I'm really into. At the back, you won't find a roll bar or a tonneau cover or anything like that, but you will find a GR tub liner, which is pretty neat. Now, Toyota reckons that buyers are going to customize this ute to suit their needs, so they didn't offer any of those extra elements, which would probably just be put in the bin anyway. All right, let's talk about some of the competitors to this ute. Look, I've already said that the Ford Ranger Raptor is not a direct rival to this. It's much more expensive, but it's a far better truck if you ask me. It does have a bunch of really, really amazing attributes to it. Those shocks are fantastic. It's made for jumping and Baja racing, so it really is a rally-ready truckster, and it's got a fantastic turbo petrol engine as well. So if that's what you're after, then you really should line up and get one of those, because it's really an amazing ute. Now, a closer rival on price and intent is probably the Nissan Navara Pro 4X Warrior. It gets a hardcore Prem car overhaul, so it's got some serious off-road credentials and some nice off-road looks to it as well. It basically comes ready to tackle the trails from the showroom floor, and it's about the same sort of money as this ute, so it could be a really good alternative if you're into the Navara thing, or the hashtag Navlife is what I believe it's called. And another alternative you should check out is the Mazda BT50 Thunder. The top spec version of that ute gets a bunch of really handy off-road elements to it, so it could be one that you might not have given any thought to, but hey, same sort of price as this. This version of the HiLux is no longer than any other, but it looks a little bit longer because it doesn't have a sail plane or roll bar or anything like that. Just accentuates the tub length a little bit more. But it is also a lot wider than a standard HiLux. Just like the Rogue, it gets the wide track version of this platform. It is pretty chunky looking, and I also love the fact that just like the Land Cruiser 300 series, you get Toyota spelled out in letters there. I don't love that that's the radar sensor thing, but that's probably the most logical place to put it because it's going to be useless down there, isn't it? Now, let's check out the tray because, like I mentioned, there is no roll bar, no tonneau cover, nothing like that, but there are some interesting elements to this tub. Let's have a look. There is no tailgate damper, so some other utes, when you lower the tailgate, it will actually dampen that drop, but not in this ute. That is a little bit annoying, but just means that you just got to be careful when you're putting the tailgate down. Now, on your screen, you'll see the dimensions for the tub. They are pretty generous. It doesn't fit a pallet between the arches like some other utes out there, Amarok, Ranger, and a few others as well. But it is still pretty good. There's a bunch of tie-down hooks on the inside, and I like the fact that you do get this GR tub liner as standard. It's not a spray-in one, so it can be a little bit slippery for loose items, but it's going to be fine for most people's needs. And like I said, Toyota reckons that people are going to accessorize the back of their GR Sport HiLux anyway, so you might put a canopy or maybe a roller cover, whatever it may be. Now, another thing I just want to call out, underneath here, there's also a spare wheel, a full-size alloy spare, and you do get these 20mm steel recovery hooks too. So if you get stuck in the rough stuff or you want to help someone out, you can. Not massive changes inside the cabin of the GR Sport version of the HiLux. Look, there are a few, and it does feel a little bit more special than a standard HiLux by way of these seats in particular. You've got these fake leather bolsters on the edges. They're a bit more bolstered than a standard HiLux seat, and the suede inlay in the middle is quite nice and grippy as well. You also get this GR embroidered patchwork up on the headrest, which is nice, and red seat belts. So they're very sporty. I like those. You also get a red skin, not racist, on this media screen. So that is a nice change. The media screen is very much the same as it was, just that the skin's a bit different. So there's round buttons rather than squares, and it's a bit easier to get around. So it's good to see, but the display itself is still very, very much the same thing as it's always been. It's smaller than most of its rivals, and it doesn't have wireless Apple CarPlay or Android Auto. You still got to plug in your phone. So that's why this little cable's down here. Dual zone climate control, heated front seats, but only single stage seating. So it's on or it's off, and no cooling for the seats like some other newer, more expensive luxury utes have. And I should also mention you do get slightly different trim designs up here on the dashboard, around the gear selector, and on the steering wheel as well. You get the GR badge on the steering wheel, a straight ahead marker for when you're racing your HiLux, and otherwise it's very much as it always has been. Storage is pretty good. I still don't love the fact that you get this really sharp edge on the edge of this top glove box, but at least you get two. There's bottle holders in the doors, and yeah, it's not too bad. So let's check out the back seat. Back seat space in the HiLux is basically as it's always been. It's not too bad. I'm 6 foot tall, and I can easily sit behind my own driving position with knee room. Foot room's pretty good too. Headroom is a bit of an issue if you are a taller occupant. Just keep in mind these hard handles, you can bump your head on them if you're going off-road. So even when you're wearing a hat, you won't be protected. So keep in mind that if you do have big backseat occupants, that could be an issue if you're off-roading. Now, if you've got smaller occupants, like kids, there's ISOFIX points in the window seats, but only one top tether point. It's in the middle here. So if you do have a child seat that you fit, you will find that you can never quite get as much tension on the top tether as you might feel confident or comfortable with. It's just a nice little thing to keep in mind if you are using this as a dual cab for family needs as well. Now, speaking of some of the family amenities, you've got directional air vents, which is good to see. No USB ports in the back though, but there is a little power point in this center console area, so you could run a cable in the back if you wanted to. There's a couple of shopping bag hooks on the seat backs, some mat pockets, bottle holders in the doors, and a flip down armrest with cup holders as well. So it's pretty good when it comes to the comfort and the amenities, just not the best. Under the bonnet of the HiLux GR Sport, you'll find a familiar 2.8 litre 4-cylinder turbo diesel engine, but this time around, there's more power and torque. You'll see the figures on your screen now, and that is a pretty decent kick up from the standard versions of this ute, 10% more power and torque in fact. And there's also a recalibrated 6-speed automatic transmission with paddle shifters, which is nice to see. Now, it's got selectable 4-wheel drive as you would expect, and a locking rear differential button. So yeah, it's good for the off-road stuff. We'll get to that shortly, but first I want to show you what it's like to drive on-road. So does the GR Sport version of the HiLux drive dramatically differently to a regular HiLux? Not really. It does have a different ride characteristic because of the broader shouldered stance of this car. So it's got more of a footprint on the road surface below, and the revised suspension, the KYB shocks front and rear, do make a difference to the ride, but it's still pretty firm, firmer than a Ranger or a D-Max or one of those sorts of utes. And look, I think that that's just part of the inherent let's say compromise of this generation of HiLux, because it has always been firm and it remains one of the firmest riding utes in this class. You might be okay with that. You might live in an area where the roads are super duper smooth, but hey, even on roads that do appear to be relatively smooth, it's never really that settled, this car. It sort of feels like it's constantly moving around a little bit. That is a HiLux trait, unfortunately, but yeah, it does feel a bit better than an SR5 HiLux, for instance, which is just a little bit sharper in most situations. So what about this powered up engine? So 10% more power and torque means, well, you can barely feel it, to be honest. It does have a slightly more potent feeling acceleration when you do put it into power mode. You hit the power button down there and you will feel that it is just a little bit more zesty, but it's not fast. And it's still pretty gruff, this engine. Like it's a pretty accomplished 2.8 litre diesel engine. It's been around for a long time now, and sure, it's fine, but it's certainly not as refined as what you might find in a V6 Ranger or Amarok, for instance. What I have noticed is that it sounds just a little bit quieter in here than in SR5 Hiluxes I've driven in the past, which do have quite a lot of noise intrusion. Look, you can still hear the diesel engine, but it's not as noisy. And this 6-speed automatic transmission has also been recalibrated to better make use of the extra 15 kilowatts and 50 newton meters of torque. And for the most part, the changes are imperceptible. It is still pretty smart in terms of the logic. When it shifts up, when it downshifts, it will still do the engine braking thing where you're going down a hill and it'll drop back a gear and try and assist your braking by using the engine and revving it out a little bit. So that can be a little bit annoying at times, but it is handy when you are towing. So I'm going to keep the on-road bit pretty brief, but I want to tell you about what it's like to tow, because I did that on this test as well. So with almost 3.2 tons of caravan behind this ute, it did feel, well, still pretty bumpy, to be honest. Some other utes, when you do put that kind of weight on the tow bar, you can feel that the back end sort of sags down and you get a bit more of this nose tail bobbing. It wasn't quite like that in this car. It was sort of more of a feeling of, well, just firmness, just general hardness at the rear end. But I will say that it didn't sag too much at the back, and that means that it does have a slightly better level of control when it comes to the steering and that sort of thing. It rode okay, it's just that, just keep in mind, it's not super comfy. With 3 people on board, with that big caravan in tow, and also with a set of tyres, spare wheels and tyres in the tray, we were very, very close to the gross combination mass for this spec of Hilux, which is 5,850 kilos. And look, it didn't feel like it was underdone or underpowered, and it actually got the job done pretty well, I reckon. Look, I've never had any issues with the Hilux in terms of its off-road performance. It's always been really, really good in the rough stuff, and that remains the case in this version, the GR Sport, even though it has been essentially honed to feel like it's more capable on high-speed dirt roads and gravel tracks and that sort of stuff. Unsealed, higher speed driving is what the focus was for the tune for this program, and it does feel pretty well at home in those situations, but it's just never settled. It just always feels like you are feeling everything that's happening. It's just always busy. And look, with nothing in the tray, you just sort of feel like the whole ute is sort of always doing the Parkinson's shake. And I'm sorry if that is offensive, but that's what comes to mind. It just never feels like it is as settled as some of the other utes out there. But hey, look, if you want a Hilux, then yes, this is probably the best one you can get, especially if you are going to plan to do a whole bunch of off-road driving. It is better on gravel tracks than it is on sealed surfaces, but at lower speeds, you really still feel a lot of the surface below you. And look, I know for some off-roaders that is ideal, because you do want to feel what's happening underneath the tires a lot of the time, and you can in this ute. So that might be great news for you. And Toyota knows that, you know, you're probably gonna buy this ute and ditch these tires as one of the first things you do. Look, there is no like serious mud terrain tire option, and I reckon if you do decide to put on, say, some 33s or something like that, then you might find that the ride comfort does squish down to a more acceptable level. And if I was buying one of these utes, it's probably the first thing I would do, because these tires are pretty good, but I reckon you can get better tires and it will vastly improve the drive experience, especially on gravel tracks and stuff, because it can still feel like it's a little bit skiddy and skittish. So what about efficiency? Well, this isn't my normal driving scenario. I'm on a launch event with Toyota here in Orange in the central west of New South Wales. And look, the official combined number is on your screen now. That's what you should be able to achieve across a mix of driving. We've done a mix of on-road and off-road, including some low-range driving, and you'll see what I saw on your screen now. That was the displayed figure. That's not too bad, I don't reckon. You are going to typically see around 10.5 litres per 100 Ks, 10 litres maybe, if you aren't doing off-road stuff. So yeah, not too bad. Now when it came to the towing element, look, I was pretty impressed with what the display was showing. You'll see that on your screen now. But hey, you know, real world, when you're actually filling it up brim to brim, it might be a little bit higher than that, I would expect, if you're towing that kind of weight anyway. This generation version of the Toyota HiLux does have a 5-star ANCAP safety rating, but the GR Sport version doesn't come with that rating. It isn't applicable to it. So that might matter to you, or you could just rest assured that it does have all the stuff you would expect that you do get on the other HiLux models, including autonomous emergency braking. You've got active lane keep assist, there's adaptive cruise control, there's blind spot monitoring, rear cross traffic alert, and on this spec you also get a surround view camera and front and rear parking sensors. Plus, when it comes to airbag coverage, yep, it's covered. So yep, it does have the safety spec, just doesn't have the 5-star score. Toyota Australia offers a 5-year unlimited kilometre warranty for all of its models in the country, and also up to 7 years of powertrain warranty. Now keep in mind that service intervals are every 6 months or 10,000 kilometres, and the average cost per service is $280. So you're looking at $560 a year to maintain this ute, which is more expensive than some of the other rivals out there. And also you don't get roadside assist included when you do service your car with Toyota. You have to pay extra for it. Some other brands throw it in for free if you maintain your car with them. Honestly, it probably doesn't really matter what I think of the HiLux GR Sport. If you like it, you're probably going to put an order in for it. But let me tell you, I do think that there are better alternatives if you can afford to spend a little bit more. The Ranger Raptor is excellent. A Ranger Wildtrak even would be a pretty compelling option as an alternative to this. But if you are sold on this hardcore look and the hardcore drive experience, then it's going to be a really good truck for you. Tell me what you think in the comments section below. Do you like it? Would you choose it? Or what would you choose as your favorite alternative to this ute? If you own a HiLux, tell me if you love it or if you've had any issues with it. I'd love to hear from you. If you haven't already, like and subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one.